What's going on, everybody? It's Jamie,
And John?
and welcome to the A-To-Zed Reseller podcast. How are you doing this week, John? Everything's good?
Yeah, man, things aren't bad. It's been a little bit of an up and down week on the non-reselling type of things, but really can't complain overall. How about
Yeah,
yourself?
yeah. It's been a busy week. Sales have been good, actually. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm just kind of ramping up, trying to get things ready for an antique booth. So my house is a disaster that way. I've got stuff everywhere, but yeah, it's been a good week.
Nice.
Yeah, so I think one of the things we did want to talk about this week is, since this is a reselling podcast, what is a reseller maybe? How do you become a reseller? And then even after you become a reseller, what are the key things to do to be successful? So what are your thoughts
Mhm.
here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot could be said, and we could make probably 10 or 12 hour-long videos getting into specifics, but I mean,
Yeah.
really for me, all I can do is talk about my own experience. I was in a situation where even working full time, I was like, you know what, I've got a little bit of time that I could put towards a side hustle and make some extra money. And I think, a reseller is, or whatever you want to call yourself, you can call yourself an e-commerce entrepreneur if you, if you want to get fancy. But no, I mean, really anybody who, you put in a little bit of extra time. If you've got an option to buy something a little bit low and sell it a little bit higher so you can help pay some bills or something, I mean, I think everybody should be at least open to getting into reselling, or at least look for those good deals, even if it's not for reselling purposes, even if it's for thrifting for yourself. I've always been very cost conscious when it comes to things like that. My personal wardrobe is all thrifted. Like, I don't like to buy things new. So carrying that through into a reselling mentality and setting up and, I guess kind of just taking advantage of that, I think it's something that everybody should do. And I just got a couple of quick little tips here that I thought I would share for somebody first getting into it. Number one, obviously, we've talked a lot about, don't just buy stuff you like or that you think is cool. But when you do find things that you think you want to sell on eBay or Poshmark or Facebook Marketplace or wherever else, I would look at sell-through rate and understand what sell-through rate is, what it means, and how you can still work with sell-through rate. So what I'm talking about here is, and I always use eBay to check this because I find it's got the most sold comparisons, the most sold listings that you can really understand how fast something sells in a 3-month period. So, you're gonna search your item, you're gonna try to filter it down to as close as what you have. Look at those available listings. If it's 100 available listings and then you filter to sold and there's 100 sold, you have a 100% sell-through rate. It's the same. So that means you've got pretty much a guarantee that your item, as long as you don't price it outrageously, is going to sell in the next 90 days. So I think understanding that what something is listed for is not what it's worth. Yard sales, flea markets, they love to do that. They say, oh yeah, this is $150 on eBay. Well, that's fine, but that doesn't mean anything if it doesn't sell for more than $20 or $30. So understanding how much you can realistically pay for something, what you can realistically list it for, and then how long you might need to wait for that item to sell. And that's where the sell-through rate comes in. Now, that said, low sell-through rate items might still be worth picking up. I pick up a lot of things that are seasonal or a lot of things that are just kind of like rare collectibles, and maybe there's only been a couple of solds in the last 90 days, or maybe there aren't even any solds in the last 90 days. I'll still pick those things up if I'm comfortable forking over the money up front and then knowing I might need to sit on it for even a year, maybe. Maybe I've paid $40 for it. It's going to take a year or two to sell, but I'll get $200 or $300 for it. So that's a case where obviously sell-through rate isn't as important, but that's got to be on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you covered a pretty good chunk of it there. And I think for me, becoming a reseller just in general could be out of necessity of needing extra money, or maybe if you're just getting into it, maybe you're trying to plan for a vacation that you can't afford and you're just looking for a way to make extra money. And I think that's how a lot of people look at it. I know for me, I had a different side hustle when I first was thinking about getting into reselling, and I kind of searched the internet looking for different ways to make extra money, and I stumbled across a few different YouTubers started watching content, really started to learn. And, the one thing you got to be careful when you are starting to learn about reselling is there's a lot of good information out there and there's a lot of bad information out there. Some of it is just because, time has passed and those things that they talked about in a video 2 years ago aren't relevant anymore. And some of it is just people just don't know and they just give bad information or just sort of spew things out of their mouth for, I don't know, for the sake of entertainment or whatever. But so you really want to be careful about who you listen to um, when it comes to like learning about reselling in general. Yeah, there's a lot to learn in general, but you got to take the good with the bad when you're trying to learn from other people.
Definitely, yeah. Filter that out. If you're starting to get into content, this is what I did anyway. I was finding these resellers and stuff, but if they never show any kind of proof or they never mention in their videos anything that actually sells or anything like that, if they're not showing you results, then chances are they're just making content, So that's a very fair point. And to go along with that, when you are starting out, obviously it might be a little bit overwhelming if you're watching big YouTubers or resellers that are talking about selling $8,000 in a week.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're not going to start out with that. So you need to set realistic, manageable goals. And so again, for me, like I have a clothing thrift store that's close by. I've got a few of them actually, a chain that I can work with that I know they rotate their inventory. For me, it's very reasonable for me to buy and list 5 items every day in clothing.
Yeah.
I know I can do that because it's right there and available to me. Can I list new video games or video game consoles every week? No, I don't have that option. I'd love to. I love selling video games and I make a lot of good money doing it, but I just don't have the sourcing opportunities. So you do need to like make sure not only from, what's available in your area, but what kind of time do you have? Can you realistically spend 15 hours a week? Do you have more time? I know that you're now doing this full time. Maybe you've got 40, 50 hours a week you can put at it. Obviously, you can list more in a day than I can. But everybody's situation is different, and you need to be realistic with yourself and not try to fool yourself into thinking that you're going to go from 0 to 8,000 in a week, and it's just going to start that way. It just isn't going to happen, unfortunately.
No, that's true. Unless you get those rare items that are you list them and they sell right away. I know I get questions all the time like, "Hey, I've listed 5 items a day for a week. When do I expect? Can I expect sales?" There's no exact math, but I would think if you're listing good items, you can eventually see that turnover, and you will get traction in sales. Being consistent is really key. I mean, even better than being consistent is picking up the best possible inventory you can. If that's not available, picking up stuff that will sell over time is still a definitely really good thing to do. And once you start building up that closet or that inventory in eBay, that stuff will sell over time, but it isn't, like you said, it isn't going to happen overnight. You're not going to wake up, day one with $8,000 worth of sales, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And one of the other things that now I've heard this said by a few different people in different contexts, but the last person I heard this, do you ever watch Tech and Sports, or do you know who that guy is?
No, I'm not sure.
No, well, he had a podcast. He's also, I think, like one of the bigger clothing sellers on eBay. His content is very educational, but usually it's not. He's not about entertainment. He's about education for sure. But he did a little thing on YouTube recently, and he said, your dream job is still a job. And I've heard that before, but it's never hit more home for me because, for me, I dreamt about being a full-time reseller for a long time. And then, when I finally made the transition, yeah, I honestly feel like it's a lot more work than I was doing at my old job. And I still love it. And I put myself in check plenty of times through the week that, hey, you wanted this. This is really good. It's overwhelming. But that's the thing. I think no matter what you decide to do, there's a lot of work that's involved. And if you want to be successful, you have to put in that work. So like I said, I think to me, that just sounds so nice. Your dream job is still a job, because for me personally, I think that really does, hit home.
Yeah, no, I think that's very fair because, I think humans as a whole tend to kind of hope for things or wish for things or build things or create even societies as a whole, and then reflect on it afterwards and think, wait, maybe we should have thought this out a little bit more. So it's not surprising to, to kind of get caught up in what you're doing and think, oh, this is going to be all great. Everything's going to be perfect. And then realize, oh, crap, this is actually a lot of work. And, I think that most people who don't understand that, I think that's where the stigma around reselling comes from. And buyers are bad for this. They think that this just magically happens. And I mean, no, what we talked about in the first section there, there's a lot of work just making sure you're understanding what needs to happen before you even sell an item. So there's a lot of mental work involved in reselling. You're looking those items up, you're taking photos, you're listing, you're working out the math of it all to make sure that it actually makes sense and is worth your time.
Yep.
And it's not like going in and I've had plenty of jobs where the job is go in and do this thing for 8 hours and you're either pressing a button or making an item or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool. Like I can do that over and over again for 8 hours. You don't have to think about it. It's a physically demanding job, but in a way it's actually kind of nice. This here is the exact opposite. It's every decision you make affects your bottom line, right? So there's a lot of mental effort for sure.
For sure. And I mean, the one thing too is, there's a step above you, but on all these platforms, for the most part, you are customer service. If somebody has a question, they're asking you. If somebody has a complaint, they're telling you. Like it or not, you're best off to be polite, respectful. That doesn't mean you have to bend over and give somebody exactly what they want, but you need to do it you need to tell them in a nice way how you're going to deal with this, and whether they like it or not, it's up to them. And they can go through other routes, through eBay, they can go through customer support that way, but you are number one defense right there in your own problems, right? So you got to be really careful about that. And some people, and I know I'm an anxiety ridden person, but I got just like, I'm actually surprised I stuck with eBay because, when you start getting like problem buyers and people trying to scam you and stuff like that, it creates a lot of extra stress on your shoulders. And, I know for me personally, it was just something that I really wanted to do. So I just kind of powered through it and like took things in stride, but it can create a lot of extra drama in your life that you don't really need sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, if anything, reselling is a good reminder to just, as a way of life, try not to take things personally. You just need to it kind of sucks sometimes when you're dealing with these people and you're dealing with some of the nonsense, but overall you just got to remember, hey, wait, in general, this is a very positive thing. You're your own boss. You're taking care of yourself. You have control over your own destiny, which is great. So you got to like not take it personally and just kind of just roll with the punches sometimes, take your licks when you get them. But, at the end of the day, it's like you're creating something for yourself. Like you have a lot of power. And, I think that's a really meaningful thing. That's one of the reasons why, even though, I do have a full-time job and, like I'm paying off some debt and stuff, but like if my financial situation was different, I'd still be doing this because I do like it. I like having that control over adding something to my life and adding options to my life. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is the one thing people, when you get into it, you do notice it's enjoyable. I mean, most people, not everybody, but shopping is a big part of it. So if you like to shop, if you like to shop deals and be frugal, I was always somebody who liked to shop for deals anyway. Like that's a big part of it, right? Like the sourcing is always the fun part.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked a bit last week about cleaning. Cleaning's not always fun. Testing can be okay. And then selling is obviously the part where you're going to make money. So maybe it's not exciting to get something listed, but when you get that sale, if you get your notification Sunday, you get that cha-ching. Yeah, that's definitely gonna give you a little boost in spirit all day, I think. So that's sort of a big part of it, I think.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree.
Yeah, I guess now, so we're talking about making sales. What did you have a particular sale of the week?
Cha-ching is all I can say. All
Yeah.
right. So I think I did share this one potentially in the Facebook group, the Canadian Resellers A Facebook group. This was my biggest package I had mailed out so far in reselling. So this was a PS3 Move lot, like a whole bunch of the gun attachments with the PS3 Move wands and chargers and all the rest, and a couple of games, and then also a Wii Fit bundle. And so I had them listed separately. The PS3 was stuff that I had picked up in a lot. I'm gonna say almost a year and a half ago now, and I had sold the console, sold some games, and all the rest. And this PS3 Move stuff was what was left over. So I had it listed pretty high, but it was all profit because everything's all paid for. So I think I had that listed for like 180, and I had the Wii Fit bundle with like 12 games and stuff listed for 200. Well, that's where I was going to make most of my money on this, but someone was interested in both and asked me if I'd come down a little bit on the Wii, come down a little bit on the PS3 stuff, maybe a little bit more than I typically would have. But I let the whole thing go for 275 plus shipping. And I mean, honestly, all that PS3 stuff was all profit at this point. So yeah, I could have held out for more, but I'm still looking at like $165 worth of profit on a nice, really big sale like that. So um, again, I love doing bundle deals. I love combining things. And like, if someone's going to buy something from me, that's great. That's why I'm doing this. If someone's going to buy two things from me, that's epic. I'm going to help them out as long as I'm making money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah, I think for me, I had a couple that I really liked here. So I know I think last week I mentioned a jacket. This week I had a Harley Davidson jacket sell. I think it was picked it up for $15 at Goodwill, listed it for about $75, and got a lot of interest. So like a lot of eyes on it, a lot of watchers. And then I started getting the lowball offers roll in. And I thought I had a sale just a couple days prior. I think I got like a $60. We got up to about $60, and I'm like, you know what? I think I counted at 65. I thought that would be enough. That $5 would be enough for me to like, give up the other 10. And they didn't decline, but they just sort of let it go. So it didn't happen. I thought, and I certainly thought, should have I took the $60? Oh well, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? I gotta wait a while to sell this, and then 2 days later, full price sale for $75. And then you're thinking, oh geez, how many times do you let that happen? I know I'm definitely not a max profit person, so I don't really care that much. I was only worried maybe, I'll try to squeeze an extra $5 out of this, but very happy with that sale because it still was a quick sale. It was within a week turnaround for that jacket. And the other thing was a flip clock. Now, the only reason why I mentioned this particular flip clock is because I picked it up at the Goodwill bins in a bin that nobody was in. They've already all rooted through it, and nobody seemed to care about this thing whatsoever. I thought, oh, okay, it must be broken. Somebody tested it. I went over, tested it. It worked, checked all the functions, and I listed it and it sold within about a week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe max, for I think $60. So that was a pretty easy $60 just laying there, with a room full of people. They all had the same opportunity that I had to pick this thing up, and just nobody seemed to be interested for whatever reason. But they are still very popular. So if you see the flip clocks, I don't know why it's so hard for me to say that, flip clocks out there. I even buy them. I've bought them broken in the past and sold them for parts for still like 30, 40, $50, depending on the model still. So, they definitely are collectible, and people seem to love them.
Yeah, man, that's sweet. I mean, that would have cost no more than what, a couple dollars in the bins?
Yeah, I should have a little note here that I keep. I never remember the price for electronics. I feel like it's maybe like, I don't know. I'd be guessing if it's 90 cents a pound or something like that, but it's pretty light. They're plastic, right? Like there's not a lot of things in that are going to weigh much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't have cost very much at all. I would say if I paid $2 for that thing, it would be a lot. Yeah.
Oh wow. That's awesome. That's a good sale.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very happy with that. And I think for the most part, actually, I think sales have been starting to pick up for me. I don't know if you had the same sort of luck. I don't know that I've had a big boost in sales, but I do feel like things are going in the right direction at the very least.
Yeah, I'd say things are kind of holding their own at a level I'm okay with. Like I haven't been listing as much. I'm still listing every day, but I haven't been listing the same kind of quantity that I was, leading into like Q4 or something like that, or even parts of last year. So I would say that I'm at what I'd expect. Maybe I'd like to be a little bit more, but I know that some of that is on me. So
yeah, I think that's okay. But I mean, part of that too is you're probably with Poshmark, you're probably relying on Sidekick to do the relisting for you, right? Like that certainly is going to help a lot. So that keeps your Poshmark super active without you even having to worry about it. eBay, do you worry about going back in and delisting and relisting items? So I just know
Sometimes.
that is something I would do. If I was going to not list the same amount of items that I'm used to, I would definitely at least go back in and refresh some old stuff, just because it takes a lot less effort, but you're still making, some motion in the store.
Yeah, I definitely do that sometimes. Like what I'll typically do, like you say with Posh Sidekick, that's a good point. I mean, I've got it set to, I don't know, every 60 or 90 days, whatever it is. My oldest listings just get refreshed. But on eBay, what I'll typically do is maybe twice a week go in and filter by sort by like ending soonest, because
Yep.
typically, I'll see old listings in there as well as any new ones. And if I see any that are just like problematic, or I've had them for a long time, or maybe I realize, oh crap, I still have this shipping option in there or something that I didn't intend to. If it's an old listing, I'll go in and I do end the listing and sell similar. So ending and relisting. Now I know there's a lot of theory about this, but ending and relisting, as far as I understand it, and from my own experience, does not reset or refresh that with a new item number or the same boost in the algorithm. Ending and sell similar and then keeping your photos, that does create a new listing. And I don't know, some people say that doesn't matter, it does the same thing, but all I can talk about is from my own experience. The sell similar is the way to go. And I do regularly still sell a lot of older stuff that, I mean, actually, I think probably 3 out of my last 5 items that I've sold are items that have been around for like a year and a half, that I just recently gave them some love. Maybe they were relisted on Poshmark, or maybe I went in, did the end and sell similar, and now they're sold. Maybe that's a price reduction as well when I'm going in and relisting things. But yeah, if you just let things sit there for years, I mean, you're not going to gain the same traction with them. That's for sure.
No, for sure. Yeah. I think always trying to rework your inventory is a good thing. And I do believe exactly what you said, ending, sell similar, maybe even tweak you can kind of look at the title to see if you put something maybe that's a little weird.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think that's a great way to like generate new interest in old items.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the other thing I thought it'd be fun to talk about is cancellations. Now, I don't know if it's just me doing a bad job lately, or if there's something going on with Poshmark. I was talking to somebody else who had some other issues like this, similar. So I've had stuff sell that I still have listed. So I manually delist items. So if I was going to sell something, let's just use eBay as an example. I sell a pair of shoes on eBay. Before I ship them, I go ahead and delist them on every platform that they exist on before I ship them out. And that way, for me, I feel like I'm in control of where it is by the time I ship it out. But recently, I've had on Poshmark had to cancel 3 orders last week that I on Poshmark Canada that I just didn't have, that are listed again. I don't know if they got relisted somehow through automation, or I just didn't do what I thought I did. It's possible because I do sell on .com and .ca for Poshmark.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I opened up .com twice and looked and just forgot to verify that I did it on the other one. I don't know, but I know on eBay cancellation is a big issue. On Poshmark and on other platforms, it seems to be okay as long as you're not constantly doing it. But on eBay, canceling an order can result in negative feedback. It's going to hurt. It's defects on your account, so you could lose your top-rated seller if you do it on a regular basis. What are your thoughts on cancellation? How do you try to avoid it in any way? Do you try to talk with the buyer, ask some questions? Sometimes you can. In my opinion, what I would do is, first of all, I try to make it so they want to cancel the order instead of me canceling the order. But yeah, interested on what you think about this.
Yeah, so I'm obviously I don't sell on as many platforms as you do. I only do eBay and I only do Poshmark Canada, but I do the same. I manually delist items. So if I'm out sourcing or whatever, or if I'm out for a whole day trip and I'm noticing sales are trickling in, it's like, okay, this is great, but I don't always want to, or I can't always like just get on my phone right away and delist things. But I do definitely want to, at my earliest possible time, go in and delist from the other platform. It has happened where I've missed it. I mean, it's probably only a couple of times or so, but it does suck when it happens. The eBay thing, definitely, that is the important one as far as I'm concerned, because yeah, you're going to get that defect on your account. I forget what the percentage is, but they evaluate you like monthly basically, and you've got a percentage, and if you're above a certain percentage, whatever that is, like, you're going to pay higher fees. You're going to have all kinds of just nonsense that's going to follow you.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, yeah, like you say, there can be negative feedback. In fact, I did have one of those when I was pretty new. I had sold an item for a friend that, hey, he didn't tell me the exact reason why it was so special or why it was so valuable. It was worth $300. I listed it for $80 because that's what it appeared to be worth. He didn't tell me it was this special thing because of this misprint on the back of the seal. So of course, when that came through and I was like, "Oh, hey man, your thing just sold for $80." He's like, "What? That's worth $300." So I did cancel that order. I took the chance early on, knowing that, whatever, I'll take the defect. Obviously, like, I'll deal with it. I was able to get that negative feedback removed only because the person went completely ballistic and lost it and was like swearing at me and doing all kinds of just craziness that is against terms of service. But I mean, realistically, I was in the fault there. That was not the right thing for me to do. I just chose to do it anyway. But yeah, with eBay, any other time something like that has come up, either where the item I've realized isn't in the condition, or I'm like, oh crap, I've sold this on Poshmark or whatever, or I can't find it. I don't know where it is. I will always just message that buyer and say, hey, straight up, here's the situation. I don't have this item anymore. I don't know if I've lost it or if I sold it on another platform, or I'm now noticing, now that I've got your item, it does have this spot or this hole or something. Do you want to cancel the order, or would you like to take a look and see if there's another item similar to this that you'd like instead? And then, 9 times out of 10, well, it hasn't even happened 10 times, but like, let's say it happened 5 times. 4 of those times, they're going to be, yeah, it's all good. Go ahead and cancel. Or they're going to choose another item. And there's not actually going to be any negative consequence to it. Because then you can select, buyer has to cancel. They're not going to fight that. They're not going to be like, wait a second, buyer has to cancel. And then, they're not going to flip out about that because you communicate with them. There was one time where a person was like, well, I really wanted this thing, and it was on eBay. And I was like, okay, well, I don't have another one. I don't necessarily have one that's similar to it, but if you pick out another item that you're interested in, I'll give it to you for 50% off. Pick any other item in my store, you can have it for 50%. And they picked out like a $40 hoodie or something. I gave it to them for $20. They were happy. I still made a couple dollars. Crisis averted.
Yep. That's awesome. I feel like I don't even have to talk because that's almost exactly how I deal with things,
Yeah.
Explain what's happening, spin it in a way that you're letting them make a choice whether they want to get something else or, cancel the order. And then you can say, buyer has to cancel the order. And I've never had an issue with that either. I have had ones that the person just wouldn't respond back to me and I had to cancel the order anyway. And those are the ones that do wind up in negative feedback. And I've also had, like you mentioned before, just where I've accepted an offer, done something I didn't want to do or didn't have, or something happened and I've just canceled it because I'm like, I'm not even going to give you this thing for $5. I thought that was a 50 or something like that. Right. But
yeah.
But yeah,
it happens. One other thing I will mention about canceling, because I think we covered that part of it pretty well, and I think we're on the same page there. But another thing, when it isn't the seller's fault, when it's the buyer's fault, let's say they just haven't paid. It is very important to wait on eBay anyway. It is, because this can't happen on Poshmark because payment's processed automatically. You get the prepaid shipping label. But on eBay, buyers have 4 days to pay. So I know that is frustrating and it can be annoying as hell to have to wait 4 days. But if you cancel it before those 4 full days are up, they can leave you negative feedback. eBay will not remove that like that. They have that amount of time. They don't have to be answering your messages. They can ghost you for 4 days and then pay on the 4th day. Like
Yep.
that is their right per the terms of service. So make sure that, I mean, reach out a couple times, message them, hey, like, do you still want this item? Are you planning to pay for it? And I'll typically be like, typically I ship on these days. So if I don't get payment by, this time, it might not be until such a day when I end up shipping out to you. Sometimes that makes a difference. Sometimes it doesn't. But if it is the full 4 days, just make sure you'll know that enough time has passed, because you'll actually have buyer hasn't paid as one of the options in the drop down when you go to cancel. So as long as that's there, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Another thing that is important to note with this is that if you send out a payment reminder, it used to be that by sending out the payment reminder, which is a little click that you can do on eBay, that would also reset the clock of 4 days. I don't think that is the case now, but if you send an invoice, then that does reset the clock for another full 4 days.
Okay.
So that's important to note as well. Like, don't think to yourself, oh, it's been 3 days. I'm sending this guy an invoice. He'll have to pay it now. It's official, because now you've just earned yourself another 4-day wait.
Gotcha. Yeah, I actually have mine. I didn't, maybe I have yours set the same way. I actually have mine automated that after the 4 days, it cancels the order automatically through eBay.
Okay.
It's just through one of the seller preferences, the same way you would set up like shipping or any of those things you want to set up, just basically unique to you. But yeah, I don't think, like you said, I don't think sending out the reminders are a problem. But I didn't know about the invoices, so that is interesting for sure. Yeah, I do have, even though I do have mine set to automatically cancel after 4 days, I still have got plenty of times somebody messaged to say like, hey, I was going to pay for that on Friday, and it was Wednesday. I'm like, yeah, it's still for sale.
Yeah, go ahead and buy it again.
Yeah, too many bad experiences waiting around for people, and yeah, it is frustrating, unfortunately.
I think that I used to have mine set to auto cancel, and I think I may have changed it because I had like maybe 2 separate instances where somebody, messaged and said, hey, I don't get paid till next week, or I can't get it until whatever, and it's like 6 days away or something. Can I pay you then? And I'm pretty sure that that's happened maybe twice. So I turned off auto canceling, and both times they have actually paid and followed up. So I think until I start seeing an issue with it or whatever, or I start getting ghosted, then maybe I would change it back. But for now, I think it works.
On behalf of John and myself, thank you guys so much for watching. If you stuck around this long, please consider subscribing for more content, either on here or Spotify, and we'll see you guys very soon.